And yeah, the geeks are in town. Michael, Winston, good to have you guys back. It's been a minute.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And what better way to get to talking about tech but than having a whole talk about the evolution of storage media? And someone's probably wondering, why would the Geek Squad decide to talk about the evolution of storage media? Don't we all know that we started from diskettes and then went to CDs and went to hard drives and now we are using pen drives? And yeah, but did you know what happened? Do you know all the tech that went into it? Do you mean by the solid state drive? It's like, yeah, the homework says that what's a solid state drive? What's the difference between a solid state drive and a hard drive? Besides, they're all solid. Anyways, yes, it gets confusing if you're not a techie. But as a result, we're going to have a little conversation about the evolution of storage media. If you're tuning in to us for the first time, the show is Squad, and we talk about tech. Sometimes we just answer your questions if you have any problem with your tech devices or services, and it's live on Facebook, it's live on Twitter, it's live on YouTube at Joy997, and if you miss it, on Sundays 4 p.m. on Joy News Television. And we have a podcast on Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, and you can even find us on My Joy Online on the website and the My Joy Online app. With all that,
That's a lot of places.
yeah, see, we're ubiquitous because we're the Geek Squad. I mean, you need to use tech to its utmost capabilities.
I mean, it's either that or you get left behind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're not getting left behind. So everybody stores data, and we often take devices that store our data for granted, as they have become so inexpensive and efficient. I remember 30 gigs of a hard drive used to cost about, 300 Ghana cedis, 250 Ghana cedis, and it was so expensive at the time. Now 300 Ghana cedis would get you a terabyte or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've really come a long way, and that's not too far off. This was like 2006, 2005,
Mhm.
2004. 30 gigs to 80 gigs was
I
must
remember
have.
when just even thinking in terms of gigs was
Mhm.
too much. If you had
Yeah,
200 meg, then was free available space to use. You were the king. You were on top of the world. That's no, my math isn't that good. I was gonna say that's two CDs, but that is very
yeah.
wrong.
Two CDs is actually
It's
1.4.
4 gig
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was
But-
700 megabytes or 650 for the earlier ones,
that you can only use once, unless you
unless
want.
it's a CD-RW. But we will get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's start off with the beginning of storage: punch cards,
I thought you
that-
were going to say like clay tablets.
clay
That's-
tablets.
Yeah, that's technically. That's even. You know what?
Mm.
Those not only were they the first solid state media, they were the first hybrid drive that could go from liquid to solid state media.
You're
Wow.
jesting.
Oh, goodness.
Please don't pay attention to Michael right
Look,
now.
I'm dropping historical facts. That is
No, you're
literally.
dropping historical opinions, your opinion on history. How's that even anything to consider? Anyways, let's
Story
start with
media.
what's documented,
Okay.
what we all agree. Punch cards. Now, they were the first mechanical storage mediums, and they could hold about 80 characters. That even a fully fleshed out tweet could fit on one. I mean, think about that. 80 characters, and your tweet is what, 280 characters now.
240.
280. It was 140, and they doubled it.
Oh, okay, yes.
So it's 280. So on a punch card from the 1890s, your tweets wouldn't fit on that because and it was 0.08 kilobytes big.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Whew.
You can put a picture on that.
What picture? Oh, I mean, you could put a bit of the picture. So to store a picture, let's put this into
Yeah, because
perspective.
it's in characters.
Yeah,
where
I-
characters are, in this case, letters
Yes,
and numbers
yes.
and symbols.
and
That's
symbols.
I mean, not all symbols, because
Okay.
No,
emojis carry
a lot
more
more.
characters.
Yes, those do not.
So if your and it's 0.08 kilobytes.
0.08
Yeah.
kilobytes.
So it's not even 0.1. It's not even 1 kilobyte. It's like 0.08.
Is it 0.08 bytes or
No,
kilobytes?
kilobytes.
Kilobytes.
Okay.
I mean, so if we're supposed to move the decimal points, where would that put it?
About 8 bytes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep. So yeah, thank you very much, Dennis, for putting a punch card on the screen. So if you're watching us live and you don't know what a punch card looks like, that's what it looks like. It was a card, and they would make holes in it. And it dates back to the 19th century when it was used to program mechanical devices such as looms and player pianos. You've seen those pianos where they have the reel going in, and then it causes each key to press
play. Yeah.
a note. Yeah, those were punch cards being used to play the piano, automate a piano being played. So you would sort of mark the notes on the sheet, and once it goes through that piano, then it starts to make the sound.
To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. The punch card looks like WASI, the answer, the MCQ sheet.
Yeah,
It really
to
does
shade,
look
to
like
shade.
it. Yeah, you shade in, and then it goes into the machine, and then
Yeah, true. Because it's optical.
Yeah.
That's why they used to tell us to shade them
very well.
very well. Else, yeah, the machine wouldn't detect what you shaded.
Interesting.
Anyways, they are obsolete now, but we still use them to store data today in standardized testing and voting.
Oh, so that was
Like
right.
Wasi.
Yes, like Wasi. Anyways, after that came the magnetic drum. This was in 1932. Now, the thing about this was that it held 48 kilobytes.
Oh, that's
So,
not bad.
Yeah.
From 8 bytes to 48 kilobytes is a huge
I mean,
jump.
wait until you see it on the screen and you understand why it's funny.
Okay.
A magnetic drum. I mean, listen to the name, magnetic drum.
Yeah, so it's
storing
pretty-
48 kilobytes.
I'm
What's
thi-
the
I'm-
size of your phone?
I'm thinking of an oil barrel right now.
yeah.
Storing 48 kilobytes. And that's like what? The smallest, what's the smallest Word document you've seen? It's
Ze-
about, you
zero-
know,
no, 1 kilobyte, and that's a fresh one that's been
That's
created.
with no characters in there.
Yeah, nothing written in there.
yeah. So, drum memory was originally invented by Gustav Toschek in 1932. As you can see on your screen right now, it wasn't small. And it was the first big step for the magnets because it wasn't necessarily developed for computing. It was used by U.S. Navy code breakers in World War II. And one drum was 16 inches long and held 40 tracks that spun at 12,500 revolutions per minute. The average hard drive right now.
Sorry, wait. It spun at what?
Yes, 12,500 RPM.
Which car even does that?
I was just about to say, we're not going to compare cars. The average hard drive right now spins at 5,400 rounds per minute.
Minutes.
And this was doing 12,500 revolutions. So you can imagine the sound,
But
the noise that probably coming from this thing.
my only abiding thought right now is that if you brought a modern hard drive within anywhere close to that, it would destroy
It would
it.
destroy it,
Destroy it,
yes. Because this was
This
a
was
magnetic drum. So yeah, it could store about 5 formatted Word document files.
Oh yeah, and Michael gave a pointer. So to anyone listening, do not put your hard drives close to magnets.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea.
That includes your headphones.
Yeah. Headphones. The big ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes everything is in your bag. You pull out your hard drive. You're like, oh, it's
It
showing
was
an
working,
error. Yes,
but
it was
now it's
working.
not.
What happened? You probably had some magnets in there that messed it up.
Especially for those of you whose cases are being problematic and you've taken it out of the case, your external hard drive, taken it out of the case, and now it's in there with everything. That's initially, that's in itself dangerous because hard drives are very
Fragile.
fragile.
Yeah.
You know, a little knock here or there, and then you end up with a clicking sound of death. So yes, no magnets, and don't take them out of the cases and leave them running around in your bag. And yeah, magnetic drums were actually once used as primary storage devices, and they remained common in computing through the 50s and 60s. But right after them came Williams Kilburn's tube in 1947. It's the first
Okay.
form of RAM.
Wait, so this was in which year?
This was in 1932.
19.
magnetic
Okay, wait.
drum.
Let's do a timeline. The first
Yeah.
one, the punch card, was in
1890. That was in the 19th
1890.
century, yes.
Okay.
Also, you're
Then-
not counting 1000 BC when we're drawing on clay
No,
tablets.
yeah.
Those are not computer, quote unquote, storage mediums.
So first one was in
What
1892.
is a computer?
Can we continue?
First one was in 1892.
Yeah. 1890,
90, sorry.
yes.
This, the drum,
1932,
1932. So
Mhm.
that's like a whole 42 years
yes.
of time before they evolved the medium. And then now,
47, which is
1947.
15 years.
15 years after this. Okay.
Yes. Now, the first form of random access memory. Right now, we know RAM because it's in everybody's computer and your phone. Speeds things up. The more RAM you have, the faster and the more stuff you can do. Well, the first form of RAM was tubes. So imagine if you had to have tubes in your laptop, and they held about 1024 bits, or basically 128 bytes. And that could fit just about 128 characters, and you need at least 72 of them to fit one picture. So in 1947, if someone took a photo of you and wanted to give it to you, they would need how many tubes? 72 tubes.
I mean, if they wanted to give you the
They'll get you a
data.
crate,
Oh,
put the
man.
72 tubes in there, and say, oh, yes, so this is your pictures. And you say, oh, how about the whole wedding album?
Woo! You need a wine cellar for that.
So anytime someone comes, you just go into your wine cellar and then you pick out the first crate.
Yeah.
This is a picture of me and my wife, and then next crate. Oh, that's the family. Oh,
This
what's
is the family of their groom.
no, half the family. Then you go to the next crate for the rest of the half of the family.
Would it fit all both halves of the family? Knowing the size of our families.
That's a
then
nuclear family.
if it includes the bride and groom, then you need 3.
Okay, so what comes after that?
Wait, I think we should show what the Williams Kilburn tube looks like on the screen for those who are watching live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
And if anybody's wondering why I was asking about the timelines, it becomes very important later on because
Yeah.
there's a certain concept or a postulate called Moore's law, which clearly helps to explain what is going on. So if you notice from the first one, that's the punch card, to the magnetic drum was 40 years, 42 years. But it took a little under half that time to get the tube.
Mm-hmm.
That was 15 years. So 42 years, now 15 years. Let's see how much less it gets.
So Williams Kilburn was the inventor, clearly. That's why his name is on it. And he invented 1947, and it was the first fully electronic form of data storage. And guess how big it was? It was 16.5 inches long
For
and
one
6
tube.
inches wide. Yes,
Wait, the magnetic drum had pretty much the same dimension.
exactly.
Okay.
So this, because yeah, the magnetic drum was also about 16 inches long, and then this same and 6 inches wide, and it stored data by displaying a grid of dots on cathode ray tubes, so like our old TVs.
Hey.
Yeah,
Cathode
and
ray.
it would send a static charge through the tubes. While the technology was revolutionary, its use was not long-lived, obviously, because it's RAM.
Okay.
A superior technology was developed shortly after, and that technology that was developed shortly after, we show what is happening on the screen. So the thing is, you know what always beats my mind when I think about all these guys that invented this stuff is, what were they thinking?
The
How-
thought process.
Yeah, the thought process that went into thinking that, because these are cathode ray tubes and they send static electricity into it to store that,
Yeah.
so they can, next time you want to access it, it repeats the whole process, and then it's, it's crazy. So if you're looking on the screen, that's a Williams Kilburn tube. You can Google it. You can go to Wikipedia and you see it. And all these things were the foundation for the storage media we use now, which we're going to get to in a bit. And after that, 3 years, or is it 4 years? Because in 1951, the magnetic tape drive
Okay,
was
so-
invented.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's about.
that's just about 4 years. Because
Yeah.
the last one was 1947,
Okay.
and the magnetic tape drive came in 1951. Now it explains why the William Kilburn's tube did not survive long enough. Because
Okay.
16 inches long, And then the magnetic tape came, which usually was about 1,200-foot roll of tape,
Oh.
and it could hold 230 kilobytes of data. Now this was good because then you can have 10 PDFs or 23 formatted Word documents on it.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was invented in Germany in 1928. The original one was invented in Germany in 1928 and was first used to store data in 1951 on a UNIVAC 1 computer. Tape drives used motors to wind the magnetic tape from reel to reel while passing a tape head to read, write, or erase data. I'm sure anyone who knows how a cassette, a video cassette,
I was
or
gonna
radio cassette works, I mean,
You have a fair
I'm,
idea.
I'm,
We
yeah.
all did. We all did.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, but for our younger viewers are just confused.
which is what we're about to get to because the younger viewers have
Uh,
probably seen the memes on social media of a cassette and a pencil, and then saying that if you know the correlation between these two things, you should be married by now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, so magnetic tapes, they're still in use now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear some huge data centers still use them to archive data.
Okay.
Because the ironic thing is that they are one of the hardier forms of data storage. They don't
Yeah.
degrade as quickly as
Yep.
modern storage media.
But you still need to keep them away from
dust.
magnets
Oh no,
and
that's
dust.
yep. No, you have to go to a lot as opposed to us like you store stuff on a drive and you literally just throw it on your bed and pray it doesn't bounce onto the floor.
Mm.
With these things, you have to keep them in sealed rooms, away from dust, away from direct sunlight, away from other electronic devices that may. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very easy to lose that data at a whim, almost.
You know,
Why did I say
we
that?
are talking about cleaning and all, and I just remembered what. I mean, I'm jumping ahead of the conversation, but you remember how arduous a task it was to clean a tape? You had to get this liquid
Yeah, put it in that tape cleaner, head cleaner.
head
You
cleaner.
buy a head cleaner, and then you put a liquid inside, and you put it inside the player, and
Yeah.
then play.
Look, the liquid was worth more than the cleaner itself.
And I always used to expect it to play something while I was doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know why nobody invented a tape cleaner that had maybe a music video on it to pass the time while you wait for it to clean your head.
If you're a time traveler, listen, that's a business hot tip right there.
Anyway, so in the 1980s, it became more compact, as you can see on the screen, where then we had the cassettes that we used to put in the radios and in the VCRs. And yeah, as we mentioned, it's still being used for archiving today, and it's very inexpensive. That explains why. I mean, it'd be easier to get a magnetic drive to store a lot of data versus going to buy solid state drives to store that same amount of data. Good. So, post that came the magnetic core in 1951. Now that's about the same period. So they were basically rubbing shoulders. People were choosing which to use, either magnetic tapes or the magnetic core. And the first core memory used in a computer stored a little more than 2 kilobytes, roughly the size of a small PNG image, or 2,000 characters of text. So we've gotten into the period where you could now store your tweet
Yeah.
on storage media. And it was first used in the MIT Whirlwind computer. So once again, computers. And core memory works by storing 1 bit of data on tiny magnetic rings or cores. The more magnetic cores you pack into one core memory, the more data you can store on it. So it became a standard in computing from 1955 to 1975. And as recently as 2004, a magnetic core memory system was found still in service in a telephonic control system. Wow. So that's one tech that has survived the years from the 1950s to as recently as 2004.
Is that
Wow.
recent though?
I mean, it's just what?
A mile,
17 years ago.
Okay.
Just, you know,
You know, enough for someone to be born, grow up, go to school, go
Yeah,
to
probably.
SS,
be finishing
yep,
SS by now.
Start
going
thinking
into
of uni.
tertiary.
and where their life is going to go. Just
So-
a short time period.
What year do you think the hard drive was invented?
I'm thinking the hard drive probably came during the period where the space boom, at least a form of it, where the Americans, the Russians, everybody was in a bid to get to
the
space.
space. The space race.
Yeah, so I think within that era, the hard drive should have showed up.
I'm going to say that was space race started in the 50s. I'm going to skip all that. I'm going to say late 70s crossing over to the early 80s.
So you early 80s,
Mm-hmm.
Winston,
Late 50s.
late 50s.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to us, I'd like you to send us a WhatsApp message on when you think the first hard drive was created. Don't Google.
Don't.
Let's challenge ourselves more. I want to see whether people know the thing. So the number is 055 1111997, 055 11 11 997, 055 quadruple 1997.
Oh.
Oh, so we've got Spiky. I still have my 128 megabytes pen drive that I bought for 1 million CDs for Prison Break downloads. Wow,
Oh.
KD, 128 megabytes. What did they copy the
Please-
videos for you for in 3GP?
Please keep that
Wow,
drive.
yeah, it might become
very important relic.
It will become a very
Spiky.
important
There
one.
actually was a head cleaner that played nursery rhymes. Oh,
Oh,
Michael
interesting.
had one for his VCD player back in the days. Against the liquid and a foam sponge. Okay, that's the VCD players. Yeah, that I understand. But the VHS, the cassette one, you know,
Okay.
the now from Spintex, good to hear from you. She says, the 80s, no. So Michael, you're also wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell.
I mean, my argument for the late 50s was because they needed to store this
Mhm.
data and to be able to access it on a way, because they were doing so many computations that if they lost that data, they had to start all over again. So that's why I'm saying that during the space race.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. The hard disk was actually invented before the floppy disk.
I can see that happening.
So, the hard disk with 3.75 megabytes of storage
Whoosh.
had enough storage space to hold a whole MP3 file, 45 seconds of low resolution video, or 5 million characters of text. The hard disk drive, first introduced by IBM in
19 what?
19 something, weighed over a ton and was the size
Ooh.
of a refrigerator.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I don't see you. Well, that explains the first computer that you've seen that
That image,
image
of it
going
being,
around on social
being
media where they're
loaded
hauling it.
into a building.
Yeah.
And there's
And
not
it-
even the update where he went back to the same building, the same spot and building,
Mm.
just held up. What was a 4 tera micro
Yeah,
SSD?
That should be funny. Like, yeah, I am your father. Bring
Yeah.
the first computer
Progenitors,
over there. And
yeah.
then. So the hard disk drive stores data on one or more rapidly rotating magnetic metal platters or disks. So if you've ever opened a hard disk before, you went to computer class and they were opened, you probably saw that. Hi Spiky, the hard drive was invented in 1956. That's Igwe from Tish. Igwe, you're right. It was invented in 1956. So
I'm just happy I was
Winston
in the
was in
ballpark.
the right ballpark.
Me and I were far away.
You
clearly.
were very far. I mean, what were you thinking? 1970. And then someone says, I still have a floppy disk. I treasure it. It's rough. I'm
God.
keeping it to show it to my kids. If I tell you my story with floppy disks. So, Douglas, I think you should store my name in your keyboard because every single time you send a message, it comes as lobby. So, Douglas says, how many sides of storage for phone do we need to have? Been external and internal. Hope you still have me in my Google Pixel 3a phone. Oh, that could be 1950. Okay, great. So we got 1950s. Douglas, are you sure you didn't Google? Yeah. So the hard drive was in 1956, and it could store 5 million characters of text, 45 seconds of low-res video, and a whole MP3. So you need that whole refrigerator to store that song.
Wait, 45 seconds of low res video.
Yeah.
Would you
And
s-
I'm talking like less than 3 GP.
That's what
That
I'm saying,
means
would-
144p.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, would you
Wow.
be able to see anything?
Oh,
I
but it could be a GIF.
No, probably
I mean, it could be a GIF,
black and white
a black and white GIF
would fit.
Yeah, black
with
and white,
very terrible aliasing.
and the sound quality is not going to be impressive.
No, it's GIF, no sound. So then you just watch mime. Oh yeah, compressed Charlie Chaplin video,
Yeah.
2 seconds of which. And yeah, so the hard disk drive is still ubiquitous today, with portable models becoming smaller and with higher storage capacities every year. The solid state drive created by Samsung, did you know this? Is only 2.5 inches and can hold 16 terabytes of data. It's undoubtedly the highest capacity hard drive on the market today. So
Huh.
the solid state drive is actually considered a hard disk drive.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Then came the almighty floppy disk.
Almighty is a strong word.
Yeah, you know why I say almighty? My first experience with a computer was with a floppy disk and a Macintosh 2. And it didn't have inbuilt storage, so you needed to load. We had a system disk, a system 3.5, floppy disk, and you put it inside the computer to load the OS, and then you take it out, and it can load any other program. So it loads the OS onto the RAM, and then you would So that was the Macintosh 2.
Yeah, we suffered before.
Yeah, and I love that computer. That computer introduced me to tech, and I never went back. So floppy disk, that's why I call it almighty. Now my loves, I never played with them. I had Load Runner as a the game, Dark Castle, F1 that I never understood how to play.
Yeah, the F1 games
The
made
first
no sense.
time I got out of the pit in an F1 game
You crashed.
was like how many days after trying to play? It was weeks after trying to play that game. Never managed to. Apparently, it was a manual.
Oh god.
Anyway, so the floppy disk, those who are old enough probably experienced it. We had a 5.1/4 floppy disk, a 3.5-inch floppy disk, and I see a bigger one on the screen. So I don't know, was that a 7-inch floppy disk?
What's huge? I think one was like 5-inch.
Yeah, I know there was a 5-inch. You can see the 5-inch next to
I
the
think it was an
3.5.
8-inch.
But wherever did that one come from? Oh yeah, and then there was the zip drives.
Oh jeez.
You know what's
the-
interesting about all these things?
What?
The fact that Microsoft decided to keep these imagery. So if you are wondering what the floppy disk looks like, what is it on Microsoft on a Windows?
The save
platform?
icon.
Yeah, your
It's
Yeah,
not-
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not-
yeah. Your
not
save
just-
icon is
Not
still
just
a
on
disk,
Microsoft.
floppy
So many
disk.
other
Yeah.
devices still use it. So
Even the phones still use the floppy disk.
Yes,
Yeah,
icon.
for save. A lot of software use a floppy
so
disk.
people know it as the save icon, but not as a
But not
actual
as a
functional
storage
drive.
medium because who's gonna store anything? So the save icon, which we all know, is the floppy disk,
Yes.
and so the first floppy disk was actually 8-inch, and it held 80 kilobytes, enough to store 8 formatted document files. And then it was developed at IBM San Jose Laboratory in 1967. Originally, floppy disks were uncovered magnetic disks, hence the flop.
Oh.
Yeah, then later plastic envelopes were added to protect from dirt and scratches, and varying sizes of the disc emerged. By 1978, more than 10 manufacturers were producing 5.25-inch floppy drives. Now, if you're listening, I want you to send us a WhatsApp message. What's the first brand of floppy disk you bought?
Jeez. who's gonna
Yeah,
remember
no,
this?
people will remember.
Okay, I don't remember, but I know it's in my mom's place. There's a whole box of a
Floppy
bunch
disks.
of floppy disks.
I
Yeah, that-
remember.
Wait, I don't remember the brands, but I remember I had a box of those things, and it got to a point where, because those things were so sensitive,
Very.
and I'm not the most careful of people, so I ended up with a huge box of floppy disks. I ended up with like 4 that worked reliably. I thought, and I only discovered those 4 because I thought I had 8, and it took several 30-minute rides to and from the internet cafe for me to realize that 4 of those don't actually work. It's only 2.
Wow, going to the internet cafes with your diskette drives
Yes.
and computer classes and all that.
Yep. Because
Yep.
if you wanted to copy those files, you downloaded from that 56k internet connection. You had to put in the work.
I'll tell you something that happened to me with a floppy disk drive. So I went to my friend Christopher, his house. He had Duke Nukem, Duke 3D on his
Oh.
computer. He used to play, and I used to go all the way to his house to play. And then when we got our first Windows computer, I wanted to take that game. So I took my floppy disk to his house, and I copied the icon to the floppy disk.
Yes.
And then I went home, and then I opened it, and it says this program will
cannot
not
be
run.
found.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I copied it.
right
I
there.
was sure I copied it, and it was so late I couldn't go back. And all that, that anxiety, that excitement I was going to play this game, just Charlie.
It was at that moment, listeners,
so-
he knew to
that-
look deeper and understand how file systems worked in the
You
computer.
know, the interesting thing is that when we were younger, because we had to go through so many loops to get things done, you explored more about
Yeah.
your computer. You needed to know, because I'm not about to ride from Sakumono to Community 18. and make that trip twice. Like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it once.
I did it more than twice because the second time I realized I had copied. The first time I realized I'd copied the shortcuts. The second time I copied only the icon, the game itself, the
execution
executable file, forgetting that I needed
the
other-
support files as well.
Exactly.
Well done.
Went home again. It didn't work.
Oh man.
Then I came back and I'm like, yo, it didn't work. So
that-
Christopher was like, let's copy everything.
This was literally trial by fire.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
it fit?
No, it didn't. Now that's when we started our business, Mohammed Sidawi and I. Mortal Kombat 1. It fits on 10 diskettes. So you put the first diskette, till you insert next disc, you insert next disc. And then we started selling games in school back in Northridge, like Siom. So if anyone's listening and you're in Northridge and you bought any of our games, yeah, that was us. So I've got some messages here. I bought 3M floppy disk in 1994 at a shop on the high street, Asha from Amamole. Wow, 3M, yes. Radio program, best tech to happen to me, the Geeks. Oh, thumbs up, heads up, everything up. You are by far my most favorite radio program, best tech to happen to me, the Geek Squad. You rock. You rock too, Barbara. And I'm enjoying the program. She says her first floppy disk was the 3M. Yes, 3M, wow. Emation and Memorex, what? You see, that's the name, Emation. Emation was, you're my guy, man. 3M, Emation, Memorex.
I
You
just,
couldn't
I
go
just
wrong
got a
with those guys.
serious nostalgia kick with the word animation.
You know, I think at this point we should just have a day where everybody who has these old things, we come and pull it together and we show everybody, because man, there are people who out here, not for the lack of trying, but the ubiquity of computers wasn't that as widespread as it is today. So some people were born in the period where these things existed, but they never really got the opportunity to
use them.
use
But
them.
even the ease as well, because look at the loops and hoops Spike had to jump to just to copy one program he wanted to enjoy.
Yeah, I didn't go to computer school. I was learning everything.
Trial
I
by
learned
fire.
was trial by like, so yeah, pretty much.
I mean, my school was a bit up there, but even I ended up, like, I didn't have to literally listen to anything they taught me in computer class, because my dad, where he worked at the time, they gave him a computer, and as much as he didn't want me to, I did experiment on it.
Yeah, we all did.
So, really,
So Ajo from Sakumona says it was Emation, yep, for computer class, you know. So when you tell us which one you used, tell us where you used it, because I think the computer class people will chop first. And then let's read more messages. Even my producer, Prince Safo, says he used one during his school computer lab session. I remember they used to tell you to bring your own floppy disk. So my husband just shared some funny experience he had with a floppy disk when he was a teenager. Apparently he was annoyed with some two known computer school that were rushing with their computers. So he decided to put a virus on his floppy disk to show them. Then he licked he licked the magnetic parts before inserting a diskette, thinking he was infecting the computer with the virus. See, this is the best story ever. I want to know what virus he was planning to. Was it the flu he was trying to give the computer?
why did he just,
Oh my.
why did he just cough on it?
He licked the magnetic
My,
part.
my question is that after that leak, did that floppy disk work?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Now ask him, did the drive work? So, Nia Ite says, IBM, that was his first diskette. Good to know, Ni. Wow, I haven't had this much of a laugh on the show. I was the Don amongst my friend, my 128 megabyte pen drive, and we're using it on a 486 desktop computer. That's KD. He also used an Emation drive. Emation were the guys then. Now, guess who's leading? SanDisk and Co.
Yeah.
I think my first brand of floppy was a Fujitsu.
Ooh, Japanese.
Yeah. Hi Spiky, do you guys remember the days when we were asked, is your your deck E or T or what is it?
Oh my goodness.
Like PAL or NTSC?
Oh my goodness. You will get the cassettes and you are ready to watch. You put it in and it's the
Yeah, yeah.
wrong format.
Yeah, wrong format. Even PlayStations, we went through
Yeah.
that.
Oh, gosh.
But we're not gonna go because that oh gosh was so. I mean, I could feel it. I could feel that oh gosh. Now from Spintex says the floppy disk was damaged. Cry. Wow. Damaged by tongue. He said he was putting human saliva virus.
After
Oh my goodness.
Sorry,
Anyways.
slight tangent. Okay, you know what? I don't want to jump ahead. Actually, no, we've already covered this thing, so to speak. So I want the listeners to send us a WhatsApp if they've ever put paper inside their video cassettes in order to be able to record over it.
What? Put a paper.
Yeah. Oh, like the entire production crew is now laughing at me, but
The
I will
whole
own this
production
age.
crew is laughing.
There is when video cassettes, they always had these dents and ridges in them in the front.
Ah,
yeah,
There was
so
a
to
little-
record over it.
Yeah. To lift at the back was where the tape was exposed to the reader
Yes.
for it to play. But
yeah.
in the front, the opposite side, on the front, I don't remember what's the left or the right, but there was a tiny
Oh, you have
square.
a friend. I put paper and sellotape.
He knows what's up.
Well, I couldn't relate because by the time we got the video cassette player at my house, there was an embargo on that whole area because I was the house destroyer of stuff. Yeah, my best friend was a screwdriver. I wanted to open everything, so I was forbidden from touching the VHS. So that one, dear.
I mean, I destroyed all my own stuff, but the thing is, if I destroy the cassette player, I'll never be able to watch my cartoons again.
But I have a memory. I'm sure all of you experienced this with the VHS.
You notice how the moment we entered where you guys relate with, everybody has a story.
Yeah, I mean,
I would have loved to-
1892, bro.
I would love to hear from somebody in the 1950s.
I'm not.
You
I'm
know?
just sad. No one saying that. Yeah, I remember when I was drawing on those clay tablets and then inverting hieroglyphics.
But my memory of when you talked about the screwdriver,
Right.
back then, our parents were very, very finicky about us using the tech stuff. So your parents have gone out, you put the cassette in, you are watching, and then the lights go off.
Oh.
Now you have to
No,
open.
it's always even more difficult when what cassette is in there is contraband.
So now you have to open the deck and take the tape out of the spool and everything. You take the tape out and then carefully reel it back in. It was such an arduous task because if that tape breaks,
if it bends.
if it bent, I could definitely just say that I know nothing about it.
So, Geek Squad, do you remember DVL space and DRV space commands to increase disk space? My first computer was a Commodore 64. Wow, you're an OG.
Ooh.
It had 32 kilobytes drive space, storage space, and looked more like a typewriter. And oh, was it heavy? Anyway, that was in 1989. Steve Incarnation, you are an OG. Like, hats off to you. Commodore 64. Wow. I only saw that in a PC World magazine from the 80s. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I saw that around the same time where the first
stop.
Macs.
Yeah, and
came.
I think the ones that had like a green, the small screen, and all the text was like in green.
You know what I discovered?
What?
That was the best secret my dad ever kept from me.
What?
Because he actually had Commodore 64 games in his house. And I always saw these cassettes. This looks like interesting stuff, but they're clearly not movies. And they don't fit into anything else. So what are they? Like, how do I get to and experience whatever this thing is supposed to be? And I never figured out what it was until decades later. And I just thought hang on a sec. Those are the Commodore 64 cartridges for his games. How did he hide that from me all his life?
Well, yeah, you needed to connect it to a screen. It was like you connect it to a monitor. It's just a keyboard.
No, there was no key, nothing. I remember, that's how the system. But all we had left were the cassette tapes for the
Okay, so you
programs.
didn't have the.
System itself.
Adam Atoyarifa says, "You guys are amazing, great program. Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you for listening."
At this point, I think we should ask our listeners who has a Commodore 64.
Yeah, so
Because at this point, it's looking like we should have an event where we display all these things.
yeah, this old tech, so you can bring your kids.
To come and see it
them, yeah.
because, COVID rules would be followed.
COVID
protocols.
Well, we can have like a space set up where we label all the stuff. So it's like a museum kind of thing.
Yeah,
you come, you
because
watch, you look around, take pictures.
I don't know what a Commodore is.
64 looks like.
No, I saw it in a magazine. I've never had
Yeah, I've
an
never
interaction.
experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if it's still working, we would like to see it.
Even if it's not working, we'd like to see
Even
if the
if
techie people today could figure
it
it out.
Anyway, we still have a lot of tech stuff to talk about.
Yes.
And
Storage.
compact disc, 700,000 kilobytes, 700 megabytes. Which year do you think that was invented?
So you see him. The interesting thing about the tech.
In fact, I should be asking the DJs because they started using them.
The interesting thing about the tech community, which is why I was able to guess the hard disk
Yeah.
thing, is that if we are talking about when it came out, There's a difference between when it came out, when it was created, and when it was commercially available. There's a very huge distinction between the two. So I dare say late 70s, early 80s, compact discs did exist in some form. At least the tape player where you put the pin on it
Yeah.
may have been a form of a compact disc.
Oh, you mean the record, the vinyl?
Yes, the record,
vinyl.
yeah, vinyl records.
So the compact discs, they're not vinyls because those are different.
Yeah, those are very
The
different.
vinyls. Have you seen how vinyls are made?
I haven't seen how they are made, but we had a vinyl player. We still do.
Still one of the best quality when you're listening. If you're an audiophile,
Oh,
every audiophile get a vinyl.
another one.
Yes, but it's true.
I'm not saying it's not true, but like Kofi, your beatman is
Yeah.
the exact same opinion. It's like it's a piece in a pot. Whenever I talk about like, oh I managed to encode my MP3 to this high level and it sounds so crisp, and he looks at me like, you peasant.
Did you say encode your MP3? I mean, at least do FLAC or WAVE. Okay, let's go.
Thank
we
you.
digress. We digress. Kobby, I still have my first pen drive of 512 megabytes, which I saved a fortune to buy. It is staring at me on my desk right now. I used it to copy Word files to print at cafes way back in tech in 2006. I still use it anyway. Wow. And I remember using Memorex and IBM diskettes to submit work to lectures to Mark. That's nice. That's very interesting. So, Spike, let's go for it. A mini Geek Squad fair. Let's bring the old stuff and invite families. Edem or the Yarfa. Edem, we totally agree and we will work
Towards
it. Yeah. Spiky, there was laser disc. Yes, there was a laser disc. I think it falls in a compact disc category. Let me read over here. The first highly portable optical storage CDs had a capacity of 650 to 700 megabytes. And that could hold 70,000 formatted doc files, 140 minutes of low resolution video. Yeah, that's why you need to have disc 1 and disc 2.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder how many CDs Chewa series had to go on. Chewa part 1 to what?
There was up to 10 actually.
Yeah, so
Chewa
then
was up
what?
to part
Did
10.
each one come in disc 1 and disc 2?
I'm
It had to.
guessing so.
Because it's standard movie length are 30 minutes. You have to split
Yeah.
it in two.
And this is 140 minutes, which is what?
So normally what they do is that there are
That's
ads
more
of
than 2 hours.
ads of other movies
Yeah.
start the movie. So yeah, it will be about
I think the noise in those movies alone can take about 500 megabytes. Anyway, so the compact disc was developed in 1982 by both Sony and Philips. Although the CD was only 12 centimeters in diameter when first introduced, the CD could hold more data than a personal computer's hard drive. And CD drives read the data stored on discs by shining a focused laser beam at the surface of the disc. CDs revolutionized the music industry in the 1980s, eventually replacing the vinyl record and cassette tape. The sale of CDs has been eclipsed by digital music in recent years, but still sell by the tens of millions every year.
Michael and I shared a look as
Did
you
you
were
ever
reading
buy
this.
a CD album?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this. There's one word when it comes to CD. Burner. That is, if you know what a burner is, a burner software is
Nero. Everybody wanted Nero.
a shampoo.
A shampoo.
Oh, yeah.
You see, your new guy. Nero was the thing. Nero. A shampoos were small guys.
But shampoo was mostly music for Nero.
And then Power DVD.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
That was the time.
I mean,
You needed-
if people are listening, they don't know what you're talking about. So basically, any computer could read what was on the disk.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to write on the disk, your computer needed your CD drive needed to be able to write.
Now, I'll tell you what. Our first HP Pavilion multimedia PC had a CD-RW drive that I never knew existed in it.
What?
Yes, till
How
2
did-
years.
How did you miss that? Literally writ. Okay, no,
Oh,
but
they didn't write it. You know
yeah,
those ones came with
yeah,
that?
they all had
Yeah.
those pre-covers on computers, so you couldn't actually see the
Exactly.
features or anything on there.
Now, the first day I realized this, it was by accident. My dad had a CDRW CD. I didn't even know that you couldn't write to CDs if your drive was not, writable. So I just took the CD out, put it in there, copied everything to the computer, and then dragged stuff onto it, and it went. And I deleted the stuff that he had on it, and it went. Yeah. And then I took it to my friend's house, did whatever I do, brought it back, erased it. And then it was my friend who told me that that's a rewritable CD. So you can use it on. And I said, yeah, I noticed that the color of the disc
Back
was
was
different,
different.
Yeah.
from the others, but I didn't know. It's like, it's rewritable. It means your computer at home is rewritable. I'm like, That's when I came to do my research. Found out, oh wow,
So
that's
you,
another line of business.
like you really slept on being an area champion
Bro,
for so
you know,
long.
I mean, understandable. Ringo Estate is not a place where you could be an area champion. Who knows who? If it was back where I grew up in Switchback, yeah, then I would have been an area champion. So yeah,
CDRW is well worth their weight in gold. And like when you're trying to explain to make it, for our younger listeners to understand, first off, your CD drive had to be every computer with a CD drive could read burned CD drives. Some maybe burned CD are rewritable drives, CDRW drives, but that was us maybe.
Yeah.
But regular burned CDs, every computer could read, but not everyone could write to it. You needed a special burner that could actually physically write to a CDRW drive. And even then, after you had that, you then needed software that could do it. And at the time, the burning software that came mixed
with
built
Windows.
Yeah,
with
it was
Windows
a Windows
was
Media Player.
it
No,
was
even
no,
the Windows
Me-
Explorer.
yeah,
Yes.
the Windows
supported
Explorer
it.
had it.
But if you
had
are not lucky and you went and click close drive
yo,
for a CDR,
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
an RW.
yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Close
it.
the
So
drive.
you're copying several. In our terms, would be, let's say you're copying series. We wouldn't be doing that. There wasn't enough space for that. Like copy several series. You copy episode 1, and then you say okay, and then you hit close drive, thinking, oh, that's it. I'm going to add the rest later. No, that's it. That one episode, taking up 15 meg out of 700 meg, is it. And you would never be able to add anything to that disk ever again.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that thing, oh yes, I've got my full series here, all 700 meg, go and load it in, like I'm going to watch today. Yeah, this drive is only 15 meg big because you only have one file on there.
Yep.
Everything else is gone. Fun times.
Ajo from Sakumana says, oh, you guys, I still have my Francophone music CDs I used to play. I'm seriously looking for a replacement because there's scratches, I should have burned them so I have copies. Now, you know, there was a business in Accra that used to clean the scratches of CDs.
Yo, if I tell you the number of home remedies I've heard about cleaning
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste was number one.
Who didn't try toothpaste
Oh my goodness.
on your
Toothpaste.
PlayStation CDs?
Yes.
Oh god,
Toothpaste.
toothpaste, alcohol,
Yeah,
those CD
perfume. Oh, I
scratches.
used to steal perfume. My mom's perfume and spray it on my CDs just to clean them. And yeah, they didn't really always work.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just tiring out your lens.
Hafiz, I'm going to tell you a story now. So, I had a burner, and he did as well. So he managed to exchange gives CDs with a friend. But you could only exchange burnt discs, and it was difficult copying info of discs. Actually, despite that, it was actually quite difficult copying info of discs because sometimes the machine they were programmed to hold certain files back, so piracy was reduced. Yeah, but so he was swapping authentic discs with a friend of his, and he didn't want to mix things up. So he used a marker, wrote the guy's name on it, so everything is fine. And the guy had the same idea, which he discovered when it was time to exchange this back. The guy comes up to him like, oh, he was afraid that he will also lose Hafiz's disc. So he went to write his name on Hafiz's.
Yeah, except he wrote it on.
No, he didn't write it on the other side.
Oh.
He wrote it, because another thing with CD discs is that they are plastic, but there's a tiny film
Yes,
on top.
the back.
Now, on the front top part where you see all the designs and stuff, that part is technically safe for writing on. So long as you don't penetrate and go through to the other side, the
So
reflective
long as
side.
you use a soft tip marker.
Yes, because the reflective side is where the actual data is, and the plastic CD itself is what holds it as a frame so that it doesn't get all warped and spoiled and stuff. Unfortunately, the guy decided to guess what he used to write
Big pen or Reynolds.
a compass point.
Oh
Wait,
my
what?
goodness.
What was he on?
I have no idea what it was on, but Hafiz actually, when he got his CD back and saw what he had, he was actually shaking. And so when he blacked out, and the next thing he realized was that the guy's disc, which he had, was also shattered on his feet around him.
He had
Oh
broken
my
it.
goodness.
Anyway, that brings us to writer speeds. My first writer was 2x speed. Go and bath and come. Still, yeah, I know, right? And who remembers emulators PS1 and PS2? You know what? We haven't even exhausted what we're talking about, but I think retro tech seems to be a very interesting topic. So, Mr. Prince Afo, aka my producer, I think we have to do a lot more retro tech.
Yeah, I mean, next week we are doing one how you listen to music.
Yeah. Let's do, because
I'm looking forward to get to dial-up internet. I have a lot to say about
the
dial-up
evolution of the
internet.
internet.
On
Right?
the subject of Walkman, if you're the one who picked the Sony Walkman from my house, please bring it back. I will not press charges. I will not say anything.
You just want it back.
I just want it
Mine
back.
was a Grundig. The unfortunate part was I don't know why the Walkman, some could rewind both ways and some could only go one way.
or the other. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, mine could only go one way.
This guy, he took. Oh no, he didn't take my Walkman. He took my Walkman. He took my MP3 player, the pill one with the USB on one side,
Oh,
and he took my PS2.
So if you've been listening to us, we've been attempting to talk about the evolution of storage media. We're not even done because we've got like
How far did we get? We got as
we
far
got
as
to
CDs.
we're about to get to zip drives, DVDs, memory cards, SD drives, USB flash disk, Blu-rays, and cloud storage. We didn't get there, but yeah, we'll catch you next week.
But before we finish, tell us which year the CD drives came.
He said
Oh,
82.
82.
yes, it was in the
Oh, so
80s,
I was right.
82.
I'm killing this, you know. Wow. Man.
At least Michael didn't say the 2000s this time.
I'll have given you 2010. That's the
So,
answer you
well,
deserve.
let me read his last message before we sign out. I did not have a Com 64, but a friend did in 89 and rode bikes for long just to see it. He bluffed a lot with it, and you were fortunate to just touch the joystick for a minute. Hey, joystick, that reminds me of the Atari.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, there's been so much tech.
Y'all played with
You could actually
joysticks?
also ban from Windows Media Player, yeah. And oh, thanks to Sony for empty CDs. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Winston. Thank you, Michael, for joining me. And yeah, if you missed the greater parts of the show, you can find it online, as I mentioned, on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, on YouTube, on Facebook. We stream live. And yeah, tweet at us, hashtag Joy Geek Squad. My name is Kobby Spiky Nkrumah. Thank you, team. Thank you, Abe Kusankofi. Thank you, Dennis the Fairboy. Thank you, Ezekiel. Thank you, Prince Safa, my producer. We'll catch you guys next week, Tuesday, with another edition of Joy Geek Squad, where we just talk tech. Ciao.